When we're thinking about the immune system, we want to make sure that we're really helping to support it because with HIV, it is compromised.
My voice is powerful, and the voices of other women are powerful. Our voices could literally change the world.
Ask your healthcare provider if Biktarvy is right for you, and visit Biktarvy.com to view the important facts, including important warnings.
Hello there, welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life, where we're all about turning positive into a plus and eating well. And when I say eating well, I mean eating well and healthy. Joining me today, nutritionist Maya Feller. Hey Maya, good to see you.
Hello, Carl. Thanks for having me.
So when I was first diagnosed, Maya, and I think a lot of people feel like this when they get that HIV diagnosis, you know, we go into this, okay, doctor, what do I have to do? Does this mean I can't drink alcohol anymore? Do I have to give up smoking? Should I become vegan? I think it's a very natural response that we get this news, and what we want to do is make sure that our bodies and our immune systems are going to be the healthiest and best they can be. Now, I know a proper diet is important at all times. Why more so for someone living with HIV?
So the first thing that I want to say is, yeah, I hear you 100%. That initial diagnosis really does create this panic around food. The thing that's interesting is that everybody, regardless of if they have a diagnosis or not, is panicked around food. And so I'm here to say that there's no one size that fits all. And what I want to remind folks, especially people living with HIV, is that yes, food is information for your cells. However, you absolutely can enjoy a wide variety of foods while being mindful and intentional about the choices that you make. When we're thinking about the immune system, we want to make sure that we're really helping to support it because with HIV, it is compromised. So there are a couple of things that particularly come to mind. Like I think about food safety. I'm thinking about protein, especially in times of acute illness or prolonged illness. Like, you know, when I'm thinking like, okay, there's a cold, there's a flu, something like that. What does that look like? I want to make sure that you're maintaining your body weight, that we're not falling into spots where people are losing weight unintentionally. And I also want to think about, you know, any side effects that are happening as a result of medication. So sometimes there may be a little nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, things like that. Not so sexy, but it does happen, right? And so I want to think about what are the foods that you're putting in to really nourish your body around all of that.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the medication thing there, because that was one of my questions. You know, there are some foods we know have negative reactions with medications. I know grapefruit, for example, not necessarily HIV medicine, but they say you shouldn't take certain meds. Are you aware of anything specific that people who are living with HIV should be maybe more conscious of, perhaps dial back on that because of reactions it has with medicine, or is it different for everybody?
So it's going to be different for each person. However, what we want to do is think about your overall lab work. For example, where are your blood sugars? How's your cholesterol? How's your blood pressure? And then we actually modify what you're eating based on those things. So if your blood pressure is in a great place, then we're going to say, okay, you don't have to be as sodium conscious. If your blood sugars are in a good place, then we're not going to be thinking so much about carbohydrate literacy. What is carbohydrate literacy? That's thinking about the types of carbohydrates that we're eating, whether or not they're liquid or solid, the quantity, the time of day. We think about those things, especially when we're trying to make sure that, we're thinking about how are your blood sugars.
We hear a lot about how being vegan is the way to go these days, or the Mediterranean diet. I heard something just yesterday about how the Mediterranean diet is great for keeping cancer at bay. Are there any sort of diets that people living with HIV should perhaps focus on, or is it okay if we like tucking into a steak? Can we get enough healthy protein if we are just vegan?
Yeah, so the first thing that I want to say is you've got to listen to your body yourself, right? If you're vegan and you recognize that you're actually losing weight, then we're going to have to think about, do we want to actually add more food? Do we want to modify what's on your plate? You have to listen to your body. There is no particular diet that I would recommend for someone living with HIV. What I would say is you want to choose foods that are culturally relevant. You want to choose foods that are affordable and accessible to you, ones that actually taste good while supporting all of those metabolic parameters: blood pressure, blood sugar, cardiovascular disease risks. So it's going to look different for each of us.
What about alcohol intake? I mean, I'm I'm partial to the odd little cocktail on a Friday once I've finished my week. But should alcohol, because I know that, you know, with some of these medicines, they can, you know, they work extra hard on your kidney and your liver. Obviously, if we're drinking a lot, we're also putting strain on those organs. Where's your positioning on alcohol consumption for someone who is living with HIV, who's healthy and undetectable?
So I want to be the first to say, like, I'm not here to stop the party, right? I totally think that a little Friday night get down is absolutely acceptable. I do think you really have to consider how you're going to interact with alcohol. I would prefer for someone living with HIV who's undetectable that it's not showing up every single day in large quantities. I really want you to make that mindful and intentional choice. Just as you said, it is tough on the kidneys, right? And alcohol is a toxin and the body recognizes it that way.
What about in the case of food insecurity? We know that's a big thing, especially here in the United States. If someone is HIV positive, they don't have insurance, so they're already relying on other programs and systems to help them get that life-saving medicine. Sometimes we go, well, I don't have that extra money to eat organic and eat blah, 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 blah. What happens then? How can we still make sure if things are tough financially, or we are in a situation of food insecurity, that we still get the right nourishment? Because it's always confusing to me. Processed white bread and the things that are the most unhealthy for you are the most affordable. And the stuff that's meant to keep you healthy and alive is always expensive.
I mean, listen, I don't have the perfect answer here. And I can say from my experience working in New York with a population who actually was food insecure and living with HIV, really, we looked around a lot for emergency food programs. We looked for meals programs, because I do understand that when we're thinking about whether or not we spend money on medication and, you know, if it's covered or not, that we want to make sure that we're also paying attention to what is put into the body. So I say for folks who are food insecure to really get to know your dollar store. Figure out what you can eat there, because you can make a meal from things in a dollar store. There's frozen vegetables. You can work with all of that. Figure out, you know, how to shop on sale. That can also be helpful. But again, getting to know the meals programs in your area. Like where I am in New York, we for sure have programs for folks living with HIV where you can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner that are wholesome, nutritious, packed with all the things that we want you to have. And I say utilize those services because they're there for us.
Yeah, projects, organizations like Project Angel Food, I know do a terrific job in making sure that people who may be food insecure are getting the nutrition they need. You and your team provide medical nutrition therapy. What is medical nutrition therapy?
So yes, we provide medical nutrition therapy. It's kind of what it sounds like a little bit. So we talk about nutrition. There is a therapeutic aspect to it. We're not your therapist, but we are talking about nutrition from a therapeutic lens, and it is from a medical lens. So for people who are living with HIV, people who have cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, that's really what we focus on from an anti-bias, patient-centered approach.
Well, listen, Maya, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time because, as I said at the top, so many of us get this news and we sort of go into that, gosh, I've got to do everything right now. And then I know, as someone who's been living with HIV for quite a while, you know, what I started is not necessarily where I am now. But I think the key to everything in what I'm hearing you say is that taking care of yourself, a proper diet, whether you're HIV positive or not, is key to a happy and healthy long life, right?
That's absolutely right. And I'm thrilled to have been here. And I thank you for, sharing your time with me.
Thank you so much, Maya Feller. If you want more information about Maya and what they do, and you want to learn more about medical nutrition therapy, check out the website, pluslifemedia.com. We'll have all the information up on there. And remember, you can follow us across social media platforms too. We are at Plus Life Media. Until next time, eat your vegetables. Be good. See you soon.